Okay. So far I haven't changed the syllabus order yet, and I decided that this actually would be a good section. Like basically just the idea of making images with computers. But on my own, I was kind of struggling thinking, I was trying to make like an actual like theory lecture like last time, so they'd be like split in half. And it basically didn't work because really what this is going to be is there's like a very brief amount of theory that we're going to learn like at the beginning, and then we're mainly going to be in Touch Designer like exploring the concepts just in practice, and just so it should be just a good way of getting the feel for tops and Touch Designer in general. And this happened last time too. I guess I will kind of skip it then. But this was why even make images with computers. And the point of this was to say, it's the same question as saying why make an image with graphite versus oil paint versus anything else. Using computers has its own qualities that other things don't have. And so in the end, you can end up combining all of it, or you can decide this is better for this project or that project, or I resonate with this more than that. And next week, as long as there's no like actual bad storm, next session, I'm gonna go over like software as a material, meaning the aesthetic qualities of using code itself and how to emphasize them or de-emphasize them depending on your preference. So this is the main like theory we have to wrap our heads around. It's just the idea of pixels. And so I want to start by explaining pixels. Let me see if I get this screen share to work. All right, we can see this. All right. So pixels, first thing I want to say is that a pixel is literally like this tiny little light bulb, all right, that has a couple, or specifically 3 even tinier little light bulbs inside of it. And they are red, green, and blue. So I'm going to go into this more in a second when we start talking about how to adjust colors and things. But the first thing to recognize is that a pixel is literally like a tiny electronic component. So this screen composed of pixels, there's thousands of them in a grid. And they're all addressable. So this is going to be very important when we're working with Touch Designer, that no matter what program you're doing or what you're trying to do, you have to remember that pixels are all on an XY grid and they're addressable by number, right? So like down here might be 0, 0. And let's say you had 50 pixels by 50 pixels, then your very top corner, technically be 49, 49, because we start at 0 in computer world, all right? Nobody confused so far? So now I want to look at RGB real quick. This is a demonstration of how you can get colors out of these 3 different colors.
Got 3 flashlights here, a blue one, a green one, and a red one. And as you can see, when their beams all combine, you get white light. And if you take a piece of paper with a slit in it and you block those beams, you can decompose that white light back into its constituent parts, red, green, and blue. Now this is something really cool. If you take something that casts a shadow, it's actually going to cast 3, a cyan, a magenta, and a yellow shadow. And if I allow each of those shadows to pass over the slit, you're going to see that they block out only their complementary color.
So cyan, yellow, magenta, that's subtractive color. That's what printers, like industrial printers use. RGB is additive color. That's what computers use. So if you're ever specifying a color, we're specifying a red, a green, and a blue channel, and you mix them together in different values to get every color that you want. Okay? So on every screen, basically, you're going to have a bunch of these pixels, right? And each one is going to be embedded with its red, green, and blue value. So in Touch Designer, it'll be a little simpler than this, but I'm hoping you can grasp that you're sending what's called an array, all right? So this is what an array looks like. You just have values inside of a list, basically. And you can have an array of arrays. So this is like what you're sending the screen is these are your like locations of each pixel. And then each pixel is going to have a red, a green, and a blue value. And then I'll also talk in a second about alpha channel. So this is what you're sending the computer, right? Or sending from the computer. Right? A string, a list of a list. The important part of this that I'll get to later is that we're calling this red, green, blue alpha, but a very key aspect of Touch Designer is that any data can be any other data. So if I have this list of numbers, I'm calling them red, green, blue, alpha because if I send them to a screen, that's how it will read it. But I can also call it XYZ and send it to a different type of thing. Or I can send the numbers however I want, but they're just going to be stored in the pixels, if that makes sense. So just remember that every pixel is going to have a position, and it's going to have red, green, blue, and alpha. And I think from there, we could probably go into Touch Designer to see it happening. So here's where I want to talk about bit depth. And let me come back here real quick. Okay. Promise I will try to minimize computer science stuff. But we all have the concept of a bit. It could be either 0 or 1. So if you ever hear of like 8-bit computer, what that means is you have a block of 8 bits. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, right? So that means you have a literal block of 8 bits, and that means you can have 2 to the 8 possible values, which is 256. You don't necessarily have to know this. The point is that the number of bits you have is your bit depth. And so if 8 bits give me 256 values, then 16 bits would give me 2 to the 16th values, which I don't even remember is something like 4 million possible values, all right? So if we go over to this circle on the common page and go to this pixel format, you'll see a drop down that is asking you what value, what is the bit depth that you want? And do you want to give me RGBA or just RGB or just RG, all right? By default, it will always be this 8-bit fixed RGBA. And for most things, that's going to be fine. But let's think about colors, for example. I mean, are there only 256 shades of, I put this up. Are there only 256 shades of color? So, yeah, correct. And so obviously, it's just higher fidelity in whatever you're trying to do. And the same thing goes for like knobs and sliders and things. For music people, you might be used to a system that goes from 0 to 127, right? That's 2 to the 7th, so that's a 7-bit thing. But you only get 128 values, right? So 8-bit, you have double the values. 16-bit, you have 4 million possible values that you could land on, which sometimes you want more, sometimes you don't want more, right? I guess another reason that you would sometimes keep that in mind is that it's like literal memory in the computer. And so 8-bit is like the smallest file size, if that makes sense. So if you're running into like massive load times or massive file sizes, one thing to check is like, oh, how much information am I trying to calculate on? Is it only 8 bits, like only 256 values? Or is it trying to calculate like 4 million values for every pixel in every frame, all right? So let me start introducing a couple actual tops that you can use. Okay. First thing I would introduce is the constant chop. So if you open the op-create dialog again and start typing constant, we will get constant chop. Looks like just a white square. Everyone with me so far? So, your question?
I have a constant that looks like a 0 chan 1.
So you went to constant chop, right? So if you go back to where all of them are purple and type constant, you'll get a constant top. But that is sort of a good segue that constant, I brought up constant first because pretty much every operator family has a constant, and it can be a Swiss Army knife, and it's kind of specific to the family. So for example, constant top, very commonly used for backgrounds, right? So 2 things we might want to use the constant chop for. The first is we can change the color. So you can either start typing in the RGB values here. For example, let me drop the red to 0.5, and the color is changed. Or if I actually click on that swatch, I get more of like a user interface. And I can pick a color, I can drag these sliders, I can even use hue, saturation, value. And I can give myself a constant with a specific color. Make sense so far? Yeah.
What is this normally used for?
Yeah.
It's normally used for what?
There's 2 things that it's commonly used for, which is one, or mainly backgrounds. So yeah, it's the most common use is backgrounds, and there's 2 reasons for that, is what I meant to say. Is 1, you might want the background to have a specific color, and 2, you might want to give the whole project a specific resolution.
Okay.
So that's what I was about to get to next, is that now that we have our color, the easiest way to change the resolution is in the common page. And so right here, you can literally type in your resolution. If you're on the free plan, you're limited to 1280 by 1280 is the max, I believe. So you can literally type in your resolution, or you can use this drop down and it will give you some common resolutions. And so while I'm at it, let's remember how to get info about this top. So it'll happen a lot when you want to like check the health of something or figure out like what's going on with this. Pretty much always the first thing I will do is go to this info thing and figure out what's going on. So remember when we were working with this circle top and I said, let's make the resolution just 1 by 1. Then here you saw just 1, 1, and 1 pixel. But now that I've done 1280 by 1280, we have over 1 million pixels already. And so I think it is a key concept of making images with computers to remember that every pixel is just an array of numbers. And so every operation you're doing is doing a calculation on every individual number in every individual pixel every frame. So the only reason we can really do any of this is modern computing. For example, I have like the M3 chip, which I think has like a few billion transistors, you know. So that's the only reason why 1280, we could look at 1280 and say that's not even HD, but it's a million pixels. And just to humor myself, I'll go HD. Now we have 1920 by 1080, and we have over 2 million pixels. And you could even go 4K. 4K is like 4 HDs, and we're rapidly, exponentially going up in our number of pixels. So when you start making complicated things, there's a whole world of like optimization. And for example, let's look at this circle again. You see all of the background here is this checkerboard. That's indicating transparency, which just means that its alpha value is 0, right? It doesn't mean there's not a pixel there. So if I made this resolution 4K, then even the pixels that are invisible, it's calculating. And if you're running a really tight program, that's something that you could eliminate. You could find a way around it having to calculate all those values. So just trying to remind you what pixels are and what we're actually doing with them. But back to what we're doing with this constant top, so far we've changed the color and we've changed the resolution. Everyone's got that with the comment page. So now I want to show you a different way to change the resolution. If we remember this op create, I can control click on the end here and open op create. And now whatever I drop will automatically be connected. So I'm going to start typing in resolution, and we get this. If you have this operator, you know how you would usually like drag this to connect? If you control click that, it'll whatever you drop will be connected. So now I'm going to type in resolution and get this resolution top. And it does exactly, it does exactly what it sounds like. If you go to the comment page, you can change the resolution. And the reason why you might want to use this instead of just using a different, like the common page of whatever you're trying to change, is it has this button, high quality resize. So it has some algorithm built in that when you're changing the resolution, it's going to work with the pixels better. Sometimes it's relevant, sometimes it's not. But these are 2 ways to actually change your resolution. Everyone got that so far? So another top I want to show you. If we open the upgrade again and go to start typing in channel, we'll see this channel mix. So we could drop that. And it is slightly complicated to explain only because it's kind of set up in a weird way. But what this is saying is what these values are the channels of the input. So we know all of the pixels of my input, they have a red channel, they have a green channel, a blue channel, and an alpha channel, right? And on the left here is that of the output, okay? So let me just look at this one number right here. This is saying take all of the red channels of my input and give them to the output of this top. Does that make sense? So far I'm just mapping one-to-one all of the RGBs of my input to the output, so it looks the exact same. But let's say, actually don't give me any greens and don't give me any blues. Now it's only showing me the red channel. Now I could say, give me the blue channel of my input and map it to the red channel of my output.
Would this table kind of make more sense if in the first column it said red and the second column it said
Yeah. Well, that's a good point. Is pretty much literally every parameter. If you click the name, if you even scroll over the name, you'll see this plus sign, right? If you click in this area, you'll get a drop down with the name of the actual parameter. And yeah, as you were saying, even these aren't really named that way. Red 1, red 2. But the order is always R, and you don't type these, R, G, B, A. Whenever you see pixel values, it's always the first channel is red, second channel is blue, third channel is green, last channel is alpha.
What is alpha?
Alpha is, you can think of it as opacity. So if I go back to my constant and we have this alpha slider, slide it down, it starts going invisible. So every pixel here has 4 numbers. They all still have the red, green, blue channels, but I've just set the alpha to 0 so you can't see them. Get it? So that all the data is still stored in it. So that's what alpha does. Yeah.
So in the channel mixer, if I take alpha down to 0, I still have like a half transparent image. Why don't I have nothing?
Let's see. You're saying take all the alpha channels of this input and don't give them to the output. That's a good question. I think it's just because if I have one in anything, it is going to show up. But I could also take the alpha channel and send it to the red channel, for example.
And you think this channel mixer is essentially just shifting the colors that exist, or is forcing a new space on the color that exists?
It is treating them like numbers, and it's I think it's just set up in sort of a confusing way. But it's saying like look at all the pixels of my input, and just say where do you want the red numbers to go? Where do you want the green numbers to go? And so if I say red to red, green to green, blue to blue, alpha to alpha, I will get the exact same image. And the point is that you can mix them up. And I won't harp on this too much because I think mainly the interface is confusing. I brought it up because, 1, to again show the channels, and 2, I actually do use this somewhat frequently if I want to like get a specific channel. Like sometimes it'll just be interesting to say, I want a fully red image. And this might even make more sense without a constant. You don't have to follow me here. But I'm just gonna get an actual image and put it in the channel mix and say, make that something.
So you set, like right there, it was the colors that make yellow. Yellow is not one.
Right.
Output as red.
Yeah.
So those values.
Right.
So rather than it being an alternative color picker mixer, it's more about blending the channels that have already been put together,
Right.
and you're just adjusting the way that mix happens.
Right.
Okay. All right.
And you could make some interesting effects by flipping the channels, like just saying actually switch red and blue, and things like that.
And then could you also set the values to 0 so that yours just has like no blue?
Exactly. And you could set it to a fraction to say actually multiply all the blues by a half. So yeah, now let me see the next one.
Question.
Yeah.
So the channel mixers, red, green, blue, alpha, constant. The columns are controlled what, the rows are the color.
Mm.
But what, the each column?
The columns are from the input in order red, green, blue, alpha. So now I want to show you some more common things that we would use to actually make image effects. I guess this would be a good time to bring in the movie file in. So if I do the upgrade again and start typing movie file, you'll see an out and an in. I'm going to pick the movie file in. And the default image is always this banana image. So I guess first thing I would say about it is whether you're using a video or an image, it's the same operator, movie file. A video is just a bunch of images. That's probably why. And Touch Designer comes with a bunch of like stock files you can use. So if I press this plus sign here, it'll open those up. All of the Touch Designer stock. You can also go through your own files if you want. I'm just going to kind of pick a random image here. Let's do a butterfly. And also, if you like click and drag a file in, just like from anywhere into Touch Designer, it will open it with this operator. So you can also just drag and drop images or videos in. So yeah, once you get an image, question? Okay. Once you get an image you want to work with, let's use the level top. So I'm again gonna control click here, up create, and go to level. Start typing in level.
Say what?
Level. Everyone with me so far? So this is a much more user-friendly way to manipulate color, and a lot of the sliders will be things that you'll recognize from other programs. I'll get to color in a second and just focus on this first page. I mean, they all just do exactly what they sound like they do. You can invert, and I'm going to press the little blue circle here so you can see it in the background. So yeah, you can invert the image. You can raise the bottom threshold of blacks. Obviously brightness. Yeah. Gamma, contrast, all the usual. Question?
When you invert it, it turns the background white. Is it still alpha there, or is it just?
So alpha is this checkerboard. If alpha is 0, you'll see a checkerboard. I think this is just interpolating from like fully inverted to not. So like halfway in the middle appears to be like gray, if that makes sense. So all the way to the right is like fully inverted. All the way to the left is not inverted at all. And you can blend between them.
I guess my question was, why does the background change from transparent to?
Oh, good question. I have thought about that too. And
You're inverting the alpha channel too.
yeah, I mean that's basically where my mind arrived at. But in my head, I don't know why you would be doing that.
Yeah.
I guess this would also be an option where if it did invert and you got a solid background, could you then channel mix and then remove like that
you could.
value out?
Yeah.
Okay.
And actually, I will show you how to do some background removal in a second too. But yeah, level. So yeah, first page is like pre. This page, range, I actually don't use as much, but it's important to know that these values for each pixel, you can set the like band that you want them to exist within. So if they're all coming in from 0 to 1, but I want the minimum to be 0.2, that's going to change it, obviously. Or maybe they're clipping and I want to reduce that, you know.
Is there a way to reset the value?
I usually just undo, Control Z. I don't think there's a way to like specifically go back to default.
Yeah, I just looked it up. I didn't see one.
Yeah.
There's a reset parameter option. If you right click on the label.
Nice.
It won't be available if you're on the default.
Yeah. Good catch.
And you said that the range, I'm trying to put it in something that I understand. In Eurorack, there's like, when you have modulating signal, you can tighten how much that signal goes back and forth. That's
The amplitude, yeah.
So we're taking whatever it comes in and we're limiting how far that moves.
Exactly, yeah. The RGBA page is exactly the same thing, but you could do it for individual channels. So you could limit the bandwidth of just the R channel or just the alpha channel, for example. And won't lie, I've actually never used the step page. And I also rarely use the post page except for opacity. So that's more like, it's working on the alpha channel. And we will come back to this when I show you how to do a feedback loop. And if you watch that video, you might remember this. This is how you would get the feedback to not be permanently on the screen. You can lower the opacity in the loop. So yeah, if you ever want to lower opacity, level top is how you would do that. Questions so far? Let's see. Next one I'll show you, again, opening the up create and start typing HSV. And I'm going to drop in HSV Adjust. So this is, if you don't really like working in RGB, you can just use HSV. HSV is, for anyone that doesn't know, hue is the color wheel. So you basically pick a color with the hue, which is a 0 to 360 number. And saturation, actually, I can't think of the word to describe saturation. It's not quite brightness. It's like, I use it in Photoshop a lot to like overcook an image. If you think of like a deep fried like meme or something, it's like the saturation. Yeah.
Like how wet.
Yeah. And then value is, if value is 0, actually, yeah, no, if saturation is 0, then there's no color at all. If value is 0, then it's bright, I believe, or dark. Yeah.
How would you type in like a hex code on an
I don't think you can type in hex code. So far that I can think of, I've only ever used color wheel and RGB value and HSV. I have used hex in code. Like I think with Python you could specify a hex, but I don't think it's by default in any of the operators.
I guess that's because it tries to convert as many numbers as possible into like a decimal so that it's more versatile, maybe?
Something like, well, no, it could. It's not like there couldn't be another value for hex, but and this is truly just my guess. Hexadecimal is a base 16 number, and I think there's like 6 values. So it's 16 raised to the 6 possible values, and we're in 8-bit by default. So it probably just by default would be too many colors, if that makes sense. But yeah, so I'm like running through commonly used operators. You don't have to memorize what they do. I just want you to have been exposed to them so that when you start wanting to make some effect, you're like, oh yeah, I think I saw something that did that. And then, but yeah, I wanted to remind everyone that there's always this question mark in the top left of any operator that will open the help page. And I literally use this all the time. So yeah, my main goal is, especially for this section, is to be exposing you to the operators so that you're like, oh yeah, I feel like I remember something that did that. And then next time you open the level and you're not quite sure what the buttons do, you can always press this and start reading the section that you need to figure out exactly what it does. So that's HSV Adjust. Another one I use a lot, open the op crate again and start typing in mono. And we'll get monochrome. So it does exactly what it sounds like. Interesting thing about this one is that you can change what it's using, what values it's using to calculate the color range. Like right now it's using luminance, which is sort of a brightness thing. But remember when I was kind of harping on how every channel is just a number. I could use the red channel of numbers to monochrome it, or I could pick any one of these essentially.
So would that mean ignore the other color values and just show black versus white based on the red channel?
Yes, and
Black versus white, like 0 to 1.
yeah. Oh, actually, maybe this is a good way to explain it. Is that I've been talking about RGBA, right? That is 3 channels of color. This is saying instead of having 3 channels of color, we're just going to have 1 channel of color, and it goes from white to black, or black to white. And so 0 is black, 1 is white. Doesn't matter what your RGB values were. Instead of having 3 channels, we're going to have 1. Yeah.
Can you do that automatic with 1 channel?
Yes, that's what I'm showing. Is that when I'm saying, by default it's doing luminance, which is something like brightness. So every pixel has like an RGB value, and it's doing some sort of average of that to say, this pixel is about this bright, let's make that white. This pixel is about this dark, let's make that black, and the shades in between. And if I say actually just do that with the red channel values instead, it's going to each pixel and saying, oh, red channel is 0.7, then this is 0.7. This pixel has 0 red, okay, this is an invisible pixel, or this is a black pixel. That makes sense? So you could do it with luminance, you could do it with any of the channels, you could do it with average, maximum.
Is luminance some sort of merging of the 3 values?
I believe so. I don't know what the specific algorithm is, but it's some kind of approximation of brightness.
And the RGB versus alpha choice is basically saying, when I choose the RGB column, that's where the monochrome image comes from, and then the alpha section is what's being removed from that image. Is that how it's processing when I have these 2 drop downs?
With these 2 drop downs, I see.
One says RGB and one says alpha.
Yeah, so RGB is, it probably should have been something like color, because it's not RGB, it's black to white. And alpha is the same type of thing. It's saying, what do you want me to use to figure out the alpha channel? So by default, it's mapping alpha to alpha, but I could map green to alpha. You see? Any questions on mono? Looks like we have a slider that blends in. Yeah?
Like if monochrome and select the red channel?
No, that would be probably a good use of channel mix. So,
Red or black and white?
I don't want them to be black or I don't want to be monochromatic and green.
Monochromatic is always black.
yeah. Let me actually try to do that with this then. So, yeah, like he said, monochrome, this monochrome top is always going to be turning whatever you have into black and white. But maybe I want to turn this red now. I'd probably use a channel mix. And I would probably map my alpha chan. No, I'd probably just map constant to red. Or perhaps alpha to red. There we go.
So it's the alpha that's
Yeah. Well, I just took, yeah, I guess taking up, so I'm taking I'm just taking one channel and sending it to the reds. But yeah, if everyone can kind of understands the monochrome top, then I want to show you another one, which is the edge top. So again, we go to the next one, start typing in edge. This is another one I use a lot. And it basically has like a built-in like edge detection algorithm, and it'll give you like the outline of your thing. So you'll see a similar drop down here of like, what do you want me to use to calculate the edge? Luminance is pretty much always the best. Like you never really am changing this, but it's good to know like, oh, maybe I want it to just be the green values or something. Strength, you can see what that's doing. Making more lines. It looks like it's brightening it, but it's actually making more lines. And maybe relevant to you guys, I was using this recently to try and make a, does anyone know what a vector graphic is? Yeah. So I was trying to figure out how do I make something in Touch Designer, bring it over to Illustrator, and then send it off to a laser cutter. Because Touch Designer, unfortunately, cannot do vector graphics. So I used the edge top to get lines, and then brought it into Illustrator with the image, whatever its image thing is called. Yeah, yeah. So like that's a perfect like explanation of how to like what you might use edge top for in the real world. And so you can change how it's calculating it. You could change its like the color of the edge, just like anything else. And this button at the bottom automatically comps it over its input. So now you have the original image plus the added edge.
Is there a blend for that, or is it just, it's just fully on?
That one's just fully on. But I think in one of these future sections, I'm about to get to how to composite. And so if you add your own composite, you can change the blend yourself. But this is just a built-in preset.
Why do I just have the edge, not the...
This button on the bottom here, comp over input. So everyone so far get the edge top? Yeah, what that does, okay.
the red X right there, that means it's not connected, or...
Yeah, red X means error, and this is getting an error because it's not connected.
The small red X at the top right means something different, right?
Oh, I see what you're saying. I think they're the same X.
I thought one means not connected, one means it's a problem with your settings and stuff.
Well, some operators can exist without being connected, but they'll still get an error. And if an operator needs to be connected, and it's not, it will always have an error. So if there is a difference, I would have never noticed it. Let me demonstrate an error that's not that. 1 divided by 0. Can't divide by 0. I have an error. And I'm reading here, I have an error message, 0 division error. You can't divide by 0. So I'm going to fix that. Whereas here it's saying not enough sources specified. So it's trying to do some calculation, but you haven't given it any numbers because it's not connected. All right. Next operator I want to show you is crop. So if we open up opcreate again, start typing crop, you get this crop top. It's funny. Crop. And again, exactly what it sounds like. But the key thing here that we saw it in a different operator earlier is over here you can change the units. So by default it'll be in fraction, meaning, I actually want to cut this in half, I would do 0.5, right? But maybe I want to be more specific than that, and I want to cut off 200 pixels, right? So you can crop from the left, the right, the top, and the bottom. And when I was bringing up earlier, all of this, all of these alphas, like these invisible pixels around here, and I was saying, like in a real, like complex program, it might be a bad thing that you're having to like calculate with all these pixels that you're not actually using. One of the first things you might try is like cropping off the actual, as much as possible, all the pixels you're not using. Most of the time, you probably won't have to do this. Most of the time, you probably won't be doing like a program where this level of optimization is really necessary. But good to know. Like this is probably my first attempt to like get rid of the extra pixels I'm not using is to crop it like this.
Small question, I guess, related to kind of the UI a little bit. The background seems to be one size. Is there a way to zoom that preview?
No, well, there might be. I don't know it. Okay. I have found myself wishing I could zoom into the actual background.
Yeah, because just sometimes the tools are in the way of what you're changing.
Yeah.
So I can't tell what's happening.
Is there a way to put the viewer on another component?
The viewer?
Yeah.
Which viewer?
Like the blue house, the blue circle.
Like when you
Oh, actually, I think there is. Yeah. Hold on. I just never use it.
that might be a solution.
Create a window
No. Oh, view. Oh, yeah. There you go.
Oh yeah, okay.
So if you right-click where I would usually be going to info, you can also click view. It opens a secondary monitor. I don't know why I never use that. I see people use it in tutorials all the time. I'm just used to the background. And Stuart, you were trying to say like, oh, with the image in the background, it could be hard to see what I'm doing?
Yeah,
Okay.
this is so helpful. Yeah, doing that is super useful.
Gotcha. Okay. Does anyone have any questions on the crop thing? The next one I will show is transform. So we start typing transform. Over here, we get a transform top. And here is where you have your translate, rotate, and scale. So yeah, I can literally start making, oh yeah, let me up that viewer. So I can literally start making it bigger. And it is going past the limits of my resolution because the image is already pretty big inside of whatever my resolution is. And so this will come in more into play when we start compositing and doing feedback. But let's say I had two images and I wanted to put them together. I might use the transform to move one of them to the side or something like that. Or it might be in a feedback loop where it's spinning or something like this. So yeah, I think fairly self-explanatory. I can.
Clicking and dragging to move the values?
Oh yeah, I haven't showed this yet. If any of these like boxes, if you click and hold, this little thing will pop up. And this is called like a value ladder, I want to say. And so you'll see there's different like base units. So if I want to move it by 0.1 at a time, and I put my mouse there, and I can go left to right. Right. But if I click and hold again for it to pop up, and I want to move by whole numbers, then I move up to 1, and now it's moving by 1.
That's so helpful.
I don't see how to do that. Oh,
If you click and hold, this should pop up. Does it pop up?
yeah.
So yeah, you could go by individual units. And actually, yeah, I probably should have said that earlier because when you're making something and you're just playing around, a lot of it is just, I don't really necessarily know exactly what moving this number is going to do. It is a lot of sitting here figuring out like, oh, what if I move it by 0.1? Or what if I move it by 0.001?
Yeah, that's easy.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
all I can do is just like, fiddling with numbers to see where it goes. That's super cool.
Yeah. So I think now we could start getting into like actual applications of when you would use some of these. All right, so right now I'm going to make 4 movie file ends. And you can make them any like file you want. I'm just gonna leave them as the banana. So one way to do it is just make one, Command C to copy, Command V to paste. I'm just gonna make 4 of them.
Looks like option track doesn't work.
Oh yeah, does that work? No, I guess not. And then I'm gonna up create and start typing layout. And I'm gonna drop this layout top. I'm gonna show you three ways to composite images. So the first one I'm using is the layout top. Everyone have this so far? So now here's a shortcut. Let me zoom in here. You see this operator has kind of a block here instead of just a line. That means you can put any number of inputs. So it's called like a multi-input operator. So a shortcut, if I want to put all of these in, is I could drag them in one by one, or I could make sure one of them selected, shift drag to select all of them, and then connect one of them. And now they're all connected. That makes sense? If they're all selected, you just connect one and now they're all connected. So let's look a little closer at the layout tab. Well, first thing we should look at is our resolution. So all of the movie file ends, they don't default to any specific resolution.
How do you get the viewer up again?
Control click or right click, and then click view. So you see view in that menu? So first thing I would usually do is set whatever I want my resolution to be. Looks like by default it's 1280 by 720, so that's probably fine on y'all's computers. the reason why I would set that first is what if I have 4 images here. It probably would make sense if I wanted them to be in a square instead of in my full resolution. So maybe I'll go, to change it, I would do this drop down and then come down to custom resolution. And then I might do 1280 by 1280, for example. So now it's square.
Is that going to be do you need to keep in mind what your output resolution is?
In a sense, yes, but you could also be starting lower or higher than the output will be. You could just be having it like this for this step if you wanted. But in general, yes, I would keep in mind, like, what is my output resolution going to be? But now let's look at some of the controls on the actual top. The main reason why you would be using the layout top is because you want a grid and you know you want a grid. And so in this align feature, you can say that you want them to go from left to right or right to left or top to bottom or be in a grid. And now that I'm looking at it, maybe having them all be the same picture is not a good way to see what's happening here because they are going in a different order. So you can pick any like random pictures so that you can see the order that they're going in. So that's the first setting is like, how do you want them arranged? And you can see the order matters. And the next setting is this fit. And this fit you will see in a lot of places, like in the common page, it's also here. Like, how do you want to fit in the viewer? And you can kind of play with them to get an intuitive sense of what each one's doing. It will affect it drastically, how it's going to fill. So you can fill, you could start with the horizontal, the vertical. Fit best is the default because it's kind of like, well, for the most part, just keep what it was originally. Native resolution will come up not necessarily in layout, but it will, instead of scaling it to whatever your new thing is, it will just keep it at whatever it was. So sometimes you want something to be unaffected by whatever you're scaling it to, and you would click native resolution. You can also comp over background color. So layout top, I will say the reason why I don't always reach for this one is that there is a, what's it called? There's a specific word for it, like a gap in between all of the boxes, and there's not a way to say what that value is. So if I wanted there to be absolutely no gap in between the boxes, just fill it. There's no way to change that. And so I usually don't find myself going to layout. So I'm gonna delete this layout top, and the one that you will find yourself going to most often, except for this third one that I will talk about in a second, is in the new version of Touch Designer. So I haven't actually even used it myself. We'll look at it together. But comp is the one you will mainly be using otherwise. So I'm also just going to connect all 4 of these. Actually, I'll just connect 2 of them for now to make it simple. So just pick any 2 and connect them to the comp. Everyone with me so far?
Which class is that comp?
We're going to be in tops for everything, and it's called Composite. Caleb, you mentioned to me last class that you were looking at all the tops and you saw like, oh, there's an add here and an over here and a difference here, but do I have to select individual tops? Composite top has them all right here. So that's why you will almost never be reaching for a specific blend mode, like operator. You will just put them in a composite and then you can pick any blend mode that you want. So this will come into play when we do the background removal, but one of the most basic blend modes is multiply, which is take the first input and multiply it by the second input. And definitely, if math isn't your thing, you can definitely just play with things and get an intuitive sense. But sometimes it helps for me to like try to understand what is happening. Like when it says multiply, that's not a metaphor. Remember, every pixel is a set of number values and it's multiplying them together. So these are different shapes, which means sometimes where there's a pixel here its alpha value is 0. So when you multiply that by 0, the new alpha value is 0, right? So whatever your first shape is, or maybe it's whatever your smallest shape is, will be like the shape of the final product. That makes sense. So this is like one way to get a mask is, let's say if I had like a regular image and I wanted to get a mask, like a circle or something, I would composite it with a multiply. That makes sense.
So does that matter then, which is the first one and which is the second one?
Let me see.
Is that what the swap operation
Yeah.
is doing? Is that basically?
For multiply, it doesn't matter. For some of them, it does. But that's a good thing to point out is underneath the operation, there's this swap operation order. And that means exactly what it sounds like. If we're multiplying A by B, swap operation order, let's multiply B by A. But multiplication is a case where that doesn't matter. And you have all of these to choose from. And people that are more familiar with video editing might like have specific go-tos and know exactly how they work. I'm often just literally testing them out, seeing what it's doing for what I'm trying to do right here. By the way, any other questions right now? I'm about to explain. Yeah.
What is, on the composite, you can turn the preview grid on and off. What is that previewing?
Yeah. So actually, that's what I was about to do next. Okay. So before I explain the bit depth thing, I'll explain the preview grid thing. What that is doing is, if you click preview grid, you'll get something like this. That is previewing every operation and that operation with the swapped operation order.
That's needed from here. Preview grid.
Yeah.
It's in the first tab.
Is there any way to like have it tell you which one of these tiles is what operation?
That's a good question.
Like, do the math.
That's a good question. I feel like there probably should be, and I just don't know it. But I do always wish there was.
Is it looks like, I mean, I'm just guessing because I'm swapping between those. It looks like the first one in the list is top left.
Yeah.
And then it just.
But he's like, do you have to count, or can you like mouse over it? I've always had to count.
Yeah, I would hope there's some other way. But if you like go to that.
But let me come back to composite in a second. Michael just asked me about this pixel format. So earlier I talked about bits, having more bits gives you higher fidelity. But some of these have the same number of bits, but they say fixed or float, all right? So fixed equals like real numbers or whole numbers, like 1, 2, 3, all right? Float is a way of storing like 1/2 or like 5/3 and things. And so to answer like what's happening with yours, it's kind of unpredictable if you're multiplying a float by a fixed. But the reason why I wanted to bring this up is that the idea of compression. Like if you guys have ever like had this video that you've made and it looks really good where you made it and then you posted it to Instagram and you're like, why are the colors different? Something around this is happening where the literal, like Instagram if you think of how many videos are getting uploaded to them a day, they have to compress the video in order to be able to actually store everything physically. And so it's doing something with this number. Like the color that looks perfect to you, let's even not even talk about float. Let's say you have a 16-bit number, and like you're like the perfect shade of blue is 2,000,007. Well, Instagram says you have 256 values, so I don't know exactly which one that is, and it has to map it onto that. That's what compression does. And another example is float. You're saying you're trying to give me this number 1/2, but I can only store whole values, so I don't know what it is. And so that's another reason to pay attention to the bit depth, is where not only like not only what is the output going to be, but like where is it going to be? If you know it's going to a place where it's going to be compressed, for example, like when I've made Instagram videos recently, I've just gone ahead and made the resolution like 640 and set the bit depth lower, so I'm not like trying to make this 4K video and thinking that's what it's going to look like. So yeah, I'm not sure if that answers your question, but
Yeah, I mean, part of it is like there's a randomness,
yeah.
which is cool.
Yeah, it could be some cool effects. But back to compositing. The preview grid, yes, it shows you all of the possible operations, and some of them it's harder to tell, but you can see that each square has two halves, where so it's every operation and swap operation order off, swap operation on. If that makes sense. And so preview grid can somewhat be used to try and figure out which one would look good. But as he asked, I don't quite know how to, like, without having to just count, how to get to the one that you see that looks good. But sometimes I've used preview grid itself as an effect. Maybe a couple people were there. Last time I did an event where there was musicians. I was using Touch Designer, like making a patch live to have like backgrounds for the musicians. And this can be a cool effect to just suddenly have a grid of whatever's happening. With every grid has a new effect. So sometimes you could just make use of this type of thing. That is the next thing I should say. In the transform page, this is the first thing you need to check whenever you're doing the composite. It's going to ask you for a fixed layer. The fixed layer is going to be the resolution of the composite. So this is another reason why we might use a constant. So I might take a constant top, set its resolution to whatever I want, 1280, 720. Plug that into my comp. I'm kind of breezing past it, maybe I shouldn't. Plugging that into my comp. And now down here, I can change the order. So I can either drag and drop it, but sometimes it doesn't work. You can press this arrow. And I'm making the constant the first one, if that makes sense. Let me drop this so you can see. And then in this fixed layer, I'm going to change it to input 1. So now it's looking at my constant, and that is now the default resolution. And then under that pre-fit overlay, this is that fit thing again. This is saying, okay, you've given me the resolution. If anything else is a different resolution, what do you want me to do with it? Do you want me to fit horizontal with it? Fit vertical? Like, how do you want me to stretch the images that are different resolutions? And this is where I mentioned you could pick native resolution and say, let's say you actually are compositing for your final image. Let's say it's 1980 by 1020. And earlier you were making smaller images because you didn't want to, you were like saving resources. So it's like a 400 image, right? So now you're compositing it, but you don't want it to scale. You want it to be 400. You would click native resolution, and now you can move them around in this composite.
having that constant at the top,
Mm.
when you try to create more operators and connect them to the composite,
Mm.
is it going to keep the same resolution?
Yes.
Okay, because that constant.
If I'm pointing this fixed layer to whatever the constant is. So my constant is an input 1, and I have my fixed layer set to input 1. It's either going to be input 1 or 2. You just make sure it's the right one.
But I guess like if you connect something to the end there and keep going, you have to tell that So if you go over here, you connect something here.
Oh yeah.
Is it still like?
Yeah, it's going to keep
Okay.
every. Oh, so you just make a random thing. Every operator, it's even grayed out here. By default, its resolution is set to use input. So whatever you're putting into it, it's just going to assume you want me to keep the same resolution. Yeah.
You got a video file and you only wanted to do the effects on one part of the video. Is that something you can control in this timeline model? It's not something you want to
Yeah. That's not something you could do right here. It would just take a little more manipulating where you would turn it on at this time and turn it off at this time. That's something I will say is Touch Designer is not particularly useful as a straight up video editor. It's hard to it's not impossible, but it's not as straightforward as like Premiere, where you're putting things on a timeline and saying happen at this time. It's not really used in that way, but it is possible. You can.
So if you were doing like a video that you wanted part of it to do something, would you need to like export that section out of Touch Designer to Premiere and chop it up?
Yeah. Let me think of an example of, I've made a video with Touch Designer, and what I did was basically exactly what you said. I recorded a section of the video with an effect, exported that, and then I had multiple exports that I put together after.
I would assume there's an operator that starts content at a given thing.
Yeah.
So you basically would mark it in now.
Yeah. We'll get to this.
A real pain in the ass compared to
Yeah. We'll get to this probably in chops 2, but there's a timer chop. And so I could basically have this timer, and I set it to whatever length that I want, and I say, when this timer is done, do something. The problem with that, not a problem, but the problem with that is you would specify it in code. So you'd write a line of code that says, when this timer is done, go to my composite and change the operation mode to this.
It's probably what's happening in Premiere, but you don't have
Yeah.
to write the script.
It is. I was, again, I'm kind of slow roading all of the coding things, but if you are familiar with those things, hopefully it'll make a little more sense of how they're set up at the end. Is that, let's say I built a effect here. In Premiere, they've also just built this effect and told you if you plug in this number for the rotate, it'll do that, right? So this is halfway in between a program and a programming language, where we really are coding in a very literal sense, but it has a UI that also kind of feels like its own program. But this can go very deep in the sense of, and I'm not even really talking about text code. I mean, with operators, we are writing a program, and you can make software with this.
Look at it.
Yeah.
The output of this goes into this module that does that.
All right. So a couple more things I wanted to show with the comp is I have 2 things I think. Oh, well, let me change the composite mode to just Let me change this to invisible. This is usually how you'd use the constant if you're using it for its resolution, is set the alpha to 0 so it's not interfering with anything. And then I'll just change this to over. So now it's literally just compositing the images over each other. And now if I go to transform, I can translate. Oh, that's translating both of them. Oh, I see. Hold on. Let me get rid of the composite to make a point. This is saying the fixed layer, meaning everything that you're gonna like do here is not gonna happen to the fixed layer, but it's gonna happen to every other layer. But I just wanted to make a point that I can move things here and kind of composite in that way. So remember I was saying we're about to go to this operator, which is brand new, and I'll demonstrate why this operator was created. Is that let's say I had like 5 images that I wanted to composite, and I wanted to place them all in different places, I would have to make a new composite each time, because this translate function is going to happen to everything that's not the fixed layer. So as you just saw, if I put in more than 2 things, they're going to move together. So if I put these together, change the fixed layer, et cetera, and move this around. Oh, hold on, I'm gonna multiply. You don't have to follow me with this, but you get the point that if I had like 10 things that I wanted to composite and move around, I would need 10 composites. So now, thank derivative, they made this new operator. So now we're gonna go make a new top, and it's called layer mix. Drop in the layer mix. And I don't even think we need a constant for this. I'll just put in my pictures. What it is exactly the composite top, but now you can manipulate the layers individually without having to add multiple composites. So you'll see some familiar things like operation down here. It has all the same things. And I'm actually kind of looking at this for the first time a little bit. So I'm not quite sure what even per layer would do. Oh, I see. So by default, let's look at what the layers page looks like. You're going to see basically nothing there except bypass. So by default, the only thing I could do to any layer is just bypass it or not. And in this setup, this is telling me what do you want to be able to do to each layer. So if I enable rotate, for example, and then I go over to the layer page, there's a new parameter here that I can rotate each layer individually. All right. And what this operation thing is saying, if I go to per layer, now there's a new thing here where I could say, oh, I want to negate this layer, but I want to chroma difference that one, and I want to maximum that one. Enable translate. Now, instead of having to do new composites for each one, I could just go over to the layer page and move them individually. So this is brand new. Haven't even really used it in a project yet, but I saw it and immediately knew that why they made it. Yeah, I'm gonna have to play with this more myself too. But basic concept is it's a composite top, but you can you can have individual controls for all the layers. But I was just saying, we only have 30 minutes left, so I won't be able to get to all 4 of these, but these last few probably are meant for tops 2 anyway, so I'll just build off of this for the next section. I think. And yeah, I think, honestly, the best way to learn is when you go home, just try and mess around with stuff. And don't be afraid to break things. And Yeah, I think the best way is like have something that you're trying to do and then figure out how to do it. So like maybe you don't necessarily care about all this compositing stuff or this background removal that we were trying to do, but you're like, how do over there they figured out how to make a butterfly flapping animation. And it's very simple to do, but I wouldn't like teach it in class, but I would teach all the components that you would then know how to do it, you know? So basically, long story short, just try things on your own, and that's the best way to figure out like what things do. But the next thing I wanted to teach is background removal, which is a technique that kind of puts together the last few things that we learned. So first new top is video device in. So you start typing in video. Down here we got device in. And it should automatically link up to whatever your webcam is. And I kind of intentionally didn't brush up on this because I'm either going to just remember how to do it or I'm going to mess up and you'll see the process of like, oh, if I don't remember how to do it, I'll just look up the part that I don't remember, you know? First, conceptually, question, Sam?
Oh, sorry, just dropping this in, since we don't have the pro version, we're limited by resolution.
Yeah, it's fine.
So it has that yellow triangle. Does
Yeah.
that matter right now?
No, yellow triangle is just a warning. Red X is an error. But yellow triangle is just telling you, hey, it's set to this resolution, but I'm only going to have it at this resolution. So conceptually, background removal, based on what we've learned so far, is, all right, so we know that if I somehow have a composite top, I can do a mask in which I'm going to have one image and I'm saying I only want part of that image to be visible, right? So if I'm wanting to remove my background, what that means is I need some kind of mask that is my body in real time, and then multiply that against my webcam, and so it'll just be me that's cut out, if that makes sense. So that's like conceptually where we need to get to, and so the two things we need are a color image of my webcam and somehow a mask of just myself. Where did I go? Background removal. All right, so step one we've done. We have a video device in. So I'll introduce everyone to this top called a null. It may or may not make sense to you right now. And all I can really say is the more you use Touch Designer, the more you'll realize why people tell you to use this. And what a null is just kind of an empty container. I guess let me give an easy use case that's like even kind of trivial, right? Let's say I want to do this thing where I can see the viewer. Oh, this is maybe too big. I'll just do this. So I want to like see the viewer, see what I'm doing. If you saw me earlier, every time I made a new operator, I had to change which viewer was active. What a null does is saying, I'm just going to put the null at the end of the chain, right? And now I can do stuff in the middle, and it won't, and I'm just leaving the null there. So pick a random thing. So I can do stuff in the middle now, and I'm just knowing the null's at the end of the chain. So if you remember when we were doing like chop references, for example, like a noise chop. All right. Remember when I was dragging this in somewhere? All right. Well, if I want to like do anything to these numbers, like if I add another chop, then now I have to change the reference and come back to this math. But if I put it all in a null and just reference the null itself, then now I can do whatever I want to do before the null and nothing gets broken. Right? So if that didn't make sense, it really doesn't have to right now. I'm just trying to say, I promise there's a reason why I'm going to start bringing up nulls. Okay, so starting from background removal. We need two things, color video and a mask of myself. So step one complete. I'm gonna put it in a null for later. Now I need to figure out how to get a mask of myself. So this is one way to do it. I'm gonna start by, I'm trying to think if it makes sense to like conceptually work backwards or just to show you the process and then make it make sense. I think I'll do that because that's how I learned it, right? I didn't like figure out how to do it. I just saw a tutorial and was like, okay, this is one way to do it. Let me fix this. Yeah. So basically what I want to try and do is have like a cutout of me that's like white pixels, and they'll have the background try to be like black pixels or maybe even invisible, right? So I want to monochrome it, and maybe in this sense I can work backwards. How I would get rid of the background, like the actual thing that's going to get rid of the background, is called a threshold.
So you're doing this to your webcam video or to the Null?
To my webcam video. So the first step is video device in. And actually, maybe I don't even need this mono. Let me see.
Why do you go black and white first?
I was just about to double check that. Actually, I don't even need this black and white. But I'm gonna leave it and see what I could do with it after. So threshold is like doing the actual work of removing some pixels. And let's see, it's set to luminance. So the mono is not strictly necessary, but I do it because now I'm going to add a level. And I'm gonna try and see if I could I'm just gonna try and see how dark can I get the background and how bright can I get myself. And fortunately or unfortunately, it does work better with whiter skin. Whiter skin, or like light directly on you, better camera, these things make it work better. Yeah, that's right.
How do we drag a node in at the top in between?
In between, so if you have two things connected, if you control click on the actual connection, that's another way to open the up create. All right. And again, adjust the parameters to your actual conditions, meaning your lighting condition, your skin color, your background. For me, I can tell right now my skin is darker than the background, and threshold is set to less, which means it's actually doing the reverse of what I want. It's getting rid of me. So I'm going to set it to greater. Make sense so far?
What's the goal at the threshold level?
The goal at the threshold level is, the perfect version would be the only pixels that exist are on my body, and the background is getting cut out. And so you can change what's called the comparator. So whatever the threshold is set at, do you want to get rid of the pixels that are less than this value or greater than this value? And then you could change which numbers am I looking at? Am I looking at luminance? For brown skin, red is a prominent color. And so it might even be easier to look at the red channel specifically, so long as red's not in your background. And we mentioned chroma keying earlier. So literally, if you go into a video editor and try to do chroma key, they've pre-built this network that we're building and set this to green. So if I had a green screen behind me and set threshold to look at the green values, then it would be cutting out all the green pixels, which would be coming from my background. That makes sense. So I'm trying to do background removal without a green screen and without good lighting and seeing how close we could get. But this is exactly what you would do if you had green screen with perfect like 3-point lighting to wash out the shadows and everything. So I'm going to go ahead and set this back to luminance and just see how close we can get. The point is, with this level, I could be adjusting brightness. You can see it's kind of getting sharper as I'm adjusting this level. Does everyone have that going on theirs? So on here, I changed the comparator to greater. Everyone with me so far?
Did you play with soften a little bit?
Yeah, soften is like, I don't know if you remember at the very beginning when I was looking at like the interpolated pixels, where you can either have like the bare pixel or you can like blur it a little bit. Soften, something like that, of like, it's finding the edge, and if you're softening it, you're kind of like kneading it out a little bit and saying, don't be so hard exactly on the edge. So there you go. It's kind of blurring. Instead of having hard 0 and 1, it's giving me some grayscale there. So you can keep adjusting the level to taste. Another really impactful one is contrast. Because remember, I'm trying to get myself to be very high contrast away from my background is the goal. But we're not going to get it perfect. So now I'm going to show you the final step. Remember, the two things I needed were, ideally, I have one image that is me with mainly white pixels and my background being either black pixels or invisible. And then the color image of the original photo. So now literally all you do is composite them. We just need to multiply them together. So I'm going to add in a composite. And it's already set to multiply.
The original with our threshold,
That's right.
or the null.
Yeah. Either one.
I'm sorry, how do I disconnect one of those channels?
You can control click on the connection. It's like disconnect, or you can drag it off and away. So you can see it's not perfect for all the reasons I mentioned earlier, but clearly something is happening. Clearly I've masked just myself to some degree.
Your layer mixing and all
With the threshold. And making sure the operation is on multiply. So this is the whole network right here. Everyone have something like this? In a second, I'll try the other way of doing this that Michael was talking about. But I want to jump ahead to feedback for a second. If we open up the palette, this little button up here. Right. I will actually show you how to make a feedback loop, but I just want to demonstrate something real quick. So I'm going to use, if you go to image filters, there's a pre-made component called feedback. So I'm going to drag and drop that in. Everyone find it? And then you could just plug yourself into it. And here's another place where you might want to use a null. Like I want to see what's happening here. but there's no little blue circle on this comp. I'm gonna connect it to a null out here and put that blue. So you see, now there's feedback happening. And on the feedback component, there's a couple settings. I'm gonna up the opacity. So you see this. Now the reason why I wanted to show this before we get into like actual, like how does feedback work, is that the only reason we're able to see anything here is that some of the pixels are thresholded out. If you think about what feedback is doing, and let me just connect this. So this is just my straight video feed going into the feedback, and nothing's happening. So what feedback is doing is, remember, all we have are pixels and frames. So it's saying, do something to the last frame, right? Stuart, do you have a question?
Oh, no, sorry, I'm just checking out the.
Oh, yeah. So feedback is saying, like, carry something over from the last frame and then composite it with this new frame. But there's no invisible pixels here, which means all of the pixels of the new frame are full. There's nothing I could do with it. So every new frame, it's still feeding back, but on top of it is the new frame because there's nothing to see. You need some level of like invisibility in order to like have old frame and new frame to composite in order to see the feedback. And if you look closely, you're only really able to see the feedback where there's some invisible pixels happening. And you can adjust the opacity, and get these effects.
That feedback, will that only work with a live video?
No.
What the movie file is?
You could do it with the movie file in. In fact, the default thing that's happening is the default movie file in with like a rotate thing happening. And we'll look at this more next time, but obviously if you go inside of it, this is how you build a feedback network. So I guess we'll do that next time. So yeah, we've reached 9 o'clock. I think for the most part, I feel like we covered a lot of the stuff about tops that I wanted to cover. Yeah, so next week we'll still be doing tops and we'll try to get slightly more advanced with it. I guess the first thing we'll be doing is drawing with feedback or getting more intentional about like what's happening inside the feedback. And I'll keep thinking of more stuff that's like starting to move into like intermediate touch designer territory. And then I'll do the same thing with the email of like, for anyone that feel like they couldn't keep up as much, I'll have like some tutorials to get you caught up. And for anyone that's like wants to jump ahead, I'll see if I can find some videos for you guys too. Oh yeah, I will say that this was a unique session where I specifically wanted to try and like do a bunch of technical touch designer stuff. I think next session will probably be more similar to the first, where it's like half more theory stuff and half practical stuff.